first thing they tell you about the Vesta 4 facility is that your watch will run fast down here. They mention this before showing you the sleeping quarters or the mess hall or the emergency protocols. It does not run fast by much, perhaps gaining just 3 or 4 seconds a day. The official answer involves gravitational time dilation relying on the mass of the shield pressing down from above. The older staff offered an unofficial answer with a careful and practiced smile, quietly insisting that the data simply wants company. I have been stationed here for 11 months now, and my watch currently runs exactly 6 seconds fast. The playback room sits at the eastern end of sub-level 3 behind a heavy door. This door requires both the standard keycard and a physical key of the old cut metal kind. The room itself is quite small and walled in panels of new metal that give everything a dull pewter cast. The space contains only a desk, a chair, the playback unit, and a lamp with a warm amber bulb. The previous archivist specifically requested that particular lamp for reasons I can only guess. She left no overhead light, understanding the nature of shadows. Archive Tape 1 arrived in my custody 8 days ago from the Geneva repository in a sealed, lead-lined case, listed merely as a legacy audio record from the Artemis program. The entire case weighed exactly 11 kilograms, while the tape itself is a standard gauge reel with a brown oxide coating on a clear backing. It weighed exactly 340 grams on the postal scale in the intake room, but on the precision scale in this room, it now weighs 344 grams. That is a difference of 4 grams, which I have measured 3 times on a scale calibrated monthly. I do not know what to make of 4 grams, so I simply write it in a log and move on. I try my best not to think about it in the dark. I carefully thread the tape onto the modified deck of the heavy Nagra machine. The previous archivist left behind a handwritten manual containing exactly 47 pages of notes. She described the head modifications only as being absolutely necessary for full spectrum capture. However, the manual abruptly stops mid-sentence on the final page, page 47. I have read the 46 complete pages 4 times, though I have not yet decided what to do about the incomplete final page. I take a deep breath, and then I press play. The sound is unlike anything I have ever pulled from a magnetic tape before, far from the flat, papery static of blank oxide. It has a granular quality resembling fine sand poured slowly onto glass, containing a low, rhythmic pressure I feel more in my chest than here. I check the monitor to see the frequency read exactly 0.05 Hz, a number I recognize from the theoretical files kept in the vault downstairs. Those files have black classification bands across their spines, marking them as highly restricted. It is the Shackleton resonance, the electromagnetic pulse of the lunar South Pole, somehow still alive in this recording. It persists 300 meters underground, and possibly far from home. Then Commander Elias Thorne finally speaks into the recording device, starting to address Houston before quickly correcting himself. His voice is strained but controlled with the military discipline trained so deep it becomes structural and load-bearing. There is a thinness to it, a quality of a man stretched between 2 states of awareness, making equal claim on him. He announces it is mission day 14 on the dark side of the Aitken Basin, recording this because the official report will never capture what he is seeing. A pause follows, and behind his voice, the 0.5 Hertz pulse continues steady and patient as he states something is standing 30 meters from the lander. I lean forward without meaning to, held by the amber light. Thorne describes it carefully, the way you might describe a crime scene if you were both the investigator and the evidence. It has no body in any biological sense, but rather occupies space the way a flame does, as organized energy, a structure without surface. The lunar dust around it does not settle, but instead it floats, caught in some field he cannot account for. The light it emits does not cast illumination across the ground, but rather it reveals, as if it's turning up the brightness on something that was already there, not adding light, but removing concealment. The shadows near it are the wrong color. Violet, Thorne says, blue-white at the edges, like something is pressing light through the dust from the other side of it. He uses the phrase prismatic shadowing, and I will use his term, as it seems fair. What strikes me as I listen is how long he watches before he speaks again. The granular hiss fills the gap, and I begin to notice something I cannot immediately account for. A second texture in the recording, something below Thorne's voice and below the hiss itself, as if the tape is carrying more than it was given. It is as if the playback heads are catching something that was pressed into the medium at a level the original engineers did not plan for. It is looking at me, he says finally. I do not mean that anthropomorphically, but I mean it has oriented toward me in a way that is responsive. When I move, there is a delay, not in the entity, but in me. I watched my glove rise to adjust my helmet camera, and I saw the shadow of the movement before I felt my arm begin to move. This is the 1/4-second variance I have read about in the classified papers. The idea that in a sufficient concentration of heavy neutrinos, the brain's perception of cause and effect can become unmoored from each other. It is the phenomenon where you begin to perceive the effect a fraction ahead of the cause, so that the observer slides, briefly, ahead of their own present. Reading about it is one thing, but hearing a man experience it in real time, in his own voice, that is something else entirely. It is not an alien, Thorne says, with wonder and grief in his voice, existing there together without apparent contradiction. I think it is me. I think it is what the moon is making from me. The tape hiss surges in a crystalline spike, there and gone, and then settles back into its slow, granular rhythm, while Thorne drops to almost nothing. My daughter drew me a picture before I left, a son with a face. She is 4 years old, and I have been thinking about that drawing every single day since we crossed the Terminator. And now the thing in front of me, the way the light moves along its surface, it is shaped exactly like that sun, the shape she drew. I do not know yet if I should be terrified or grateful. I stop the tape, letting my hands rest still on the desk while the amber bulb holds its ground. The Shackleton pulse is gone from the speakers, but I can still feel it, or believe I can. A slow throb at the base of my skull, like the echo of a sound that has stopped. I look at the reel, noticing it has barely moved, with hours still left. I sit with that for a long time before I press play again.